with everything going on right now, I've got a lot of questions about stuff that I recommend. I've even been getting questions from family who are, you know, kind of worried about the times or whatever, and they want to actually, you know, start carrying a firearm, or they just want a firearm because of how things are getting, and they're realizing that, you know, personal defense is really in your hands. So the first thing, before any firearm recommendation, the first thing I'm going to tell you is, no matter what firearm you get or whatever, no matter whatever Hollywood tells you, you need to get training. Recently, I recommended a family member for a training center that I actually know of and plan on going to for some of their courses in the future when all this stuff dies down and allows me to do so. So I recommended this for, and using, because the intent was to get a firearm for concealed carry. It's fine to get the firearm, but you need to commit that you are actually going to a training course to learn how to use it. And this specific class is General Defensive Handgun Insights Training out of basically around Seattle. But basically what they do is they go over the laws, talking about the legal use of a firearm, and it's really a good broad, you know, introduction to using a firearm for self-defense. Now, taking a basic handgun class is fine, but I think that with most people intending to actually carry these for self-defense, I think it's absolutely important that people actually understand where they actually lie as far as, you know, in their state when they can use a firearm, because that's more important than just knowing how to use a firearm. It's knowing when to do it and having good judgment. So other than that soapbox speech that I wanted to give, which I feel is the more important thing than just getting a gun and learning how to use it, we'll get into this. So my first recommendation for new shooters is any of the Smith & Wesson 2.0 series. The caveat to that is anything that is the compact and smaller. Like, if you know my channel, I have the M&P 40 compact, and that has a 4-inch barrel. It's about the size of a Glock 19. It's big enough. It doesn't need to be much bigger than that. You can still use 17-round magazines if you wish, but it's the optimal barrel length for most of the projectiles for self-defense that you get today, because they're tested and designed for maximum terminal performance out of a 4-inch barrel. Some exceptions would be something like the critical duty. However, the what you're losing is not really enough to make too much of a difference. But anyways, other than that, I recommend, from my experience, the P2000 or the P2000 SK. So this is one of the firearms. These two firearms, actually, I gotta go ahead and insert something. I know a lot of people say 9mm is the most popular. How's that working out for you right now? Can't find it on shelves for the most part, and even on the internet it's costing more than what 40 caliber did. So anyways, 40 caliber has a good amount of availability still, and you know, one of the biggest cons is people say, well, the capacity and the basically the cost of it is more and it's snappy. That's not true. It depends on the gun that you're getting. Now, if you get something like a Glock, they're not designed around the 40 caliber, except for the Gen 4. It's fixed some things, but it's still not very good with the 40 caliber. These two are like puppy dogs to shoot. Others, like the USP, are good too. However, I think these ones are some of the best. And so, in general, I actually think that these top three are the best. So, anyways, for the P2000, I have really good experience with that. It was one of my favorite firearms for self-defense because it's about Glock 19 size. You are losing some capacity, but it's really not enough to make a difference. But if you get the SK version, even in 40 caliber, that thing was a puppy dog to shoot. I loved it. It's basically also the double action trigger. I don't know what it is, but it's very easy to work with. And it was one of my first double action pistols that I seriously got into using. I don't have it anymore, so but that's not a testament to things. That's just because I have to make sacrifices financially, so I have to trade guns in to get a new one. But I will be getting one in the future, believe me. So anyways, the Beretta PX4, I put the compact here. Like for 9mm, the compact is pretty good. The one thing you do have to be concerned about is the barrel length, because you're just a little bit over 3 3 inches. You're basically working with a single. It's like the single stack pistols, kind of like the M&P Shield or even the Hellcat or the P365. How it has a shorter barrel length, and that will affect your hollow points performance negatively for the most part. Except for certain rounds like a critical defense, which doesn't really penetrate all that much to begin with, but you do have to do your due diligence and do some research on what will work good and make sure the firearm's barrel length that is being tested has relatively the same barrel length as yours. However, besides that, we're looking at shootability. That's one of the big things for people to want to train with their firearm is shootability, and this thing is one of my favorite firearms for shootability. The PX4 in 40 caliber and 9mm. So soft. It's amazing. It's one of the softest 40 calibers I've ever shot. So the compact, I imagine, would be on pretty much the same level. As far as like compact guns, it's about the size of the Glock 19, has about the same capacity. It's actually exactly the same capacity, so what am I talking about? But anyways, it's one of those guns that goes right back on target and doesn't really need much assistance for you to get it back on target. Because that's what you end up doing when you get experience and you're shooting fast, is you kind of have to force the issue of it getting back on target depending on what it is. So in 40 caliber and 9mm, PX4 has always worked really well for me. It's highly recommended and it's a good price. Works really well. So I don't really have experience with the APX line, but well, I do with the full size. They're okay, but my vast experience is with the PX4. So anyways, moving on. For those of you who are looking for something like a home defense gun, but still kind of in the realm of something you can carry, the Beretta M9A3 92X, they're good. They're good guns, and there's different versions. The new 92X, you can get a compact version as a 4.5-inch barrel, and you know that's a good barrel length for 9mm in some things like the 147 grain rounds, which are some of the more untouched ones because people are wanting 124s or lower for their smaller pistols that they're getting. But the 92X has a lot of variety as far as like different designs, and it has a slimmer grip. Excellent. So that's actually on my wish list. So anyways, moving on. They're very easy to shoot too. That's one of the things. Even though it's a double action, very easy to shoot, and you can get the decocker only model. So there's not really that many disadvantages. Even though it's an all metal gun, they are still extremely durable. So it's not like the military ones where they had like a 5,000 round, service life on their locking blocks. These ones have like a 20, 30,000 round life, depending on how diligent you are about actually changing out your recoil springs. So anyways, they're dirt cheap. So the last one is the CZ line. I know I got some criticism in some of my videos that I wasn't bringing up CZs, and I don't know why I did that, because I've absolutely had good experience with the P07. I went to 10,000 rounds. There was limited wear and limited problems. Malfunction-wise, very little problems. The only problem I had was a premature breakage on a trigger return spring at 1,800 rounds. However, the factor that we need to take into account with this, and I'm very picky about this, is understanding what causes it, and is it the firearms problem, or is it just something that you'll deal with, like a natural thing, like the heat treatment wasn't exactly the best for that metal, or it was just a fluke, a lemon. And it was a lemon. I had the other recoil spring that went beyond 8,000 rounds, 9,000 rounds, almost 10,000 rounds without any issue. But CZ had great customer service, as they sent me several trigger return springs kind of as an apology for the manufacturer defect. So that's awesome, and definitely use your customer service. Don't go to a gunsmith and waste your money, because typically you can get free parts for premature breakages or even recoil springs. I've gotten them from Beretta for free. Just because I said the recoil spring went out, and plus there's a warranty and stuff like that, so definitely use them. But I have experience with the P07. The P09 I don't necessarily have any experience. I actually don't have any experience with, but it's basically just a bigger version of the P07. So generally speaking, it should be very easy to shoot, just like the P07 is, and there are modifications that you can do as far as like sending it off for certain things. I recommend minimalistic manipulation and changes to the trigger pull, because that can be unsafe. There's different versions. You can do cocked and locked. If it's like a home defense gun, I recommend cocked and locked. That way you're basically just ready to go. You don't have to worry about a double action pull if you're not going to spend too much time. So you get a nice single action pull. You know, stuff like that. It does give you options. So these are all good pistols. They have their own place. They have their own lifespans. They have their own characteristics that you can fall in love with. And really, I would want them all. They're awesome. So anyways, I hope this was helpful as far as recommendations. I mean, you're getting down into a rabbit hole as far as like looking at EDC firearms, home defense firearms. When you're looking at pistols, it's a rabbit hole. It is crazy how much variety you have and how many good pistols. And there's a lot of good pistols that I could put on the list, but I wanted to keep it to the top 5. That seems to be people's limitation. But I hope this was helpful. I appreciate you guys watching. If you guys are experienced and you have other firearms that you think are, you know, good purchases as well, you know, go ahead and put them in the comments below. The one caveat to that I have to say is typically when people go to gun stores, Glock is like one of the first one to be recommended. There are others that are more budget friendly, such as the M&P. It generally costs less, and typically it'll last a bit longer. And also, like P2000, yeah, this will cost a bit more, but it will last longer even than this one. Recoil spring life is like 15-20,000 rounds, generally speaking. And Beretta PX4, it'll last a long time too, over the Glock. And you know, the M9A3, basically the same. The parts are less expensive though, however. And the CZ, I had a great experience. I'd never had to change out the recoil spring in the first 10,000 rounds. It worked perfectly, so I imagine the service life is a lot more than that. So these are great options. They all have their own weaknesses and benefits and stuff like that you got to be aware of. But do your due diligence. It's like having a car. You know, learn how to dress it up, learn how to take care of it, and it'll always serve you well. And so, anyways, I appreciate you guys watching, and you guys have a good one.